Hi, this is Rock. We're going to look at COUNTIF and COUNTIFs. In order to look at this, we want criteria that we can be summing up or counting. So I want to reopen what we had with the SUMIF and SUMIFs and the average if and average ifs. So I'm going to do a move or copy of that one, create a copy, come over to the COUNTIFs and move to the end. It's nice that these are so analogous. So if you kind of understand the concepts of one, you can understand the concepts of another. If you know what SUMIF is trying to do, it's not so hard to figure out what COUNTIF would be doing. If I change this to count instead of sum, again, what this is doing is this is going to be the count range, and this is the count criteria. The thing that's different with COUNTIF is that you can't have it be separate from the criteria itself. So there's no optional separate range on which to do the count. So I'm going to delete this and just leave this as this is our range from which we're going to check to see if it matches meals. Now this is confined to 28, and I think this is actually supposed to go down to 74. So we'll do a quick update here and just make sure it goes to 74. This is going to count the number of expenses, not the amount. Now, in doing that, we'll want to change the format away from being an accounting format. We'll change it to something like a number, and we don't need any decimals in that. This is just a number of the expenses. And I'll change this to say COUNTIF. So there are 15 meals in this list, and if I check air travel, there's 3 air travel. I can check lodging, I can check car rental. In fact, one way to use a COUNTIF is along the lines of this. So to put this over here, I can change the input from this dropdown to this cell here. If I do this, my plan is to copy this down and have a count for each, but I'll want to make sure to have this be an absolute reference before I do that. So I hit enter, and this will be count. And then if I paste this down, that gives me my count for each of those. I could also do a count of copy and paste that here and change the range to employees, hit enter. I have 6 from Alex. If I paste that down, Control D, these are the numbers of expenses I have by these individuals. So COUNTIF is something I use a lot. The COUNTIFs is going to be a similar kind of thing. So I'm going to copy the formatting here and paste it there and change this to a COUNTIF. So I'm going to change this heading here and then change the formula itself. And unlike the COUNTIF, this is not going to be necessary, this original range that is the sum or the average. Because we're counting with each of these, I can delete that first criteria. We just dive right into the criteria range and the criteria. Criteria range 2, criteria 2, criteria range 3, criteria 3. Okay, there we go. Now if I hit enter, this is how many expenses there are that are for Katie in March for meals. If I switch to Alex, there's only 1 in March. If I switch to January, there's 0. August, he has 1. If we go to lodging, there's 0. Again, I can take this and paste this down to force us having more in here. In which case, if I change this to February, then there is 15 of these. So that is COUNTIF and COUNTIFs. Absolutely essential functions to understand and make use of. And next we'll talk about MINIF and MINIFs. See you then.